And so, strategy is playing the long game, which you guys always hear me talking about. Strategy is really having a long-term vision of where we're going. A lot of your goals are going to have a strategy, in essence, built out to get there. And the tactics are, the blocking and tackle of the game. We'll use football as an analogy because, college spring just wrapped up and we're in the talk time now. Going into a game, there is a strategy to win that game. And then there's all the tactics of the blocking and tackling and the pass plays and all the pieces we've learned along the way that they implement. For us in business, especially real estate as we're here, almost everything we've talked about and been taught in the traditional models, including, I'm going to own this myself, my world, is mainly tactics, teaching you the pieces that get you there versus really the long-term strategy, which includes a big chunk of what Don has to offer and what Don brings to the table. That, by the way, in my home inspection world, I was awesome at. And I kind of got out of that. And Don's been dragging me back, kicking and screaming, and I am implementing more and more. So thank you for that, Don. That being said, guys, I want to hear what you guys pull out of this chapter. It's chapter 4, right?
Let me add one piece before we go in. Let me add one piece to that, and that is
absolutely
the way I've always seen it. And again, I'm going to be real curious as to all the things that Amanda and her dad bring to the table here. But what I would say is that tactics typically, and it's almost like the scripts, Russ. I mean, you and I'm a big script fan. I'm a big fan of things that you do. Clearly, I want your influence with all the people that are in our world. And from my point of view, the tactics, let's say the scripts, let's just deal with that one piece. The scripts are what you say when you get to the client, but how you get to the client is, from an overview perspective, more of a, how do I attract people, right? So the strategy of how do I attract is different than the tactics and the words we use to describe, the words we use to sell, the words we use to close. So this is going to be tactical versus the bigger picture, which is the overview. The umbrella is the strategic part, and part of the strategy, and we'll get into lots of this. I've read this, in this section, is going to be this marketing piece. How do we have a big picture view of how we're positioned in the marketplace, how people see us in the marketplace, how people think about us, talk about us, and again, know, like, trust, and remember. So we'll get into all that stuff, but this is, I think, one of the big distinctions. And you're right, the real estate world specifically has lived in the, what do I say? What do I do? What's the next thing to take action on? Well, that's great, but there's no strategy behind it. And we'll talk about that specifically when we get to marketing, okay?
All right, so Don and I have our blinders on for the way we see the world, and you guys are going to help eliminate our blind spots as well. So what did you guys pull out of this chapter to help all of us learn?
Anybody?
So I've got a listing appointment this afternoon. And chokes me up just thinking about it. Sorry about that. So the whole idea of what I'm going to be saying, it's things that I always kind of think about, but this is with a lady who needs to move, wants to be closer to family. And so this is not just as simple as me putting a price on that. Anybody can put a price on it. Here's what I'm going to offer. And I know you're interviewing other agents. Here's the things that I want you to look out for. And if you feel like somebody else is going to do better than that, better than me, then you need to go with those people. You make sure that you're served the best you are, because at the end of the day, you're what matters, not me. And it's so funny. I listened to this morning about 5 o'clock, and I'm kind of fumbling at the moment, but anyway, it was see, choked up again. Hugely impactful, and maybe you can help me out, or maybe I'm missing the boat. But
well, let's definitely stay in this section, Tom, because the presentation that we talk about, the listing presentation, really is a tactic. and yet we can still blow it up more now into a strategy. And I love what your strategy is. It's about them.
Yeah.
It's about her. So one of the things I would layer in there as we develop this, and maybe as we were in the material, we talked about the stadium pitch, and it talked about who do you want in that room, and specifically more, who do you want in that room and what is their need? So for her, in this one thing, and we all go into this, if it's really all about them, how can we discover, Tom, what her needs are?
Listening, asking questions and listening.
Man, what a great tactic there to build on a strategy. That you're going to go in, your strategy on listing presentations going forward is not to take the listing, rather to discover what their true needs are, to build a relationship, to connect and build rapport, and to ultimately determine if you guys are a match.
Right.
Everybody else historically, including you truly, listing presentation, I'm a hunter. I'm going to go kill this one. Tactical.
So,
by the way, did I ever get listings that after the fact I went, oh my God, why do I have this? Right. Tom, you ever had those?
Yes.
Yeah. And
So-
with this new way, this new, in essence, strategy of doing this, just going in from the heart. I mean, we're playing more and more of that. Don and I were talking about that earlier today. There are moments, even when I'm coming from the heart, I might be coming across a little tactical. And so we all get to get better. And there's so many different pieces in here. So Tom, thanks for cracking this egg open. What else do you guys have as nuggets that are going to help all of us learn?
Wait.
So
Don first,
oh.
then client. Go, Don.
Okay, so Tom, the question is then strategically, what could you have done to set up the meeting that you're having with the tactics? How would a marketing set of pieces that position you so when you walk in, you're already they're predisposed, like this is our guy? How could the pre-marketing set that up so that conversationally speaking, I mean, people would ask the question all the time, what do you say when you get there? Who cares? When they call you and go, come list me, it's kind of yours. So the question really becomes, what's the strategy? Now, we can't change that for today, but what marketing things do you have that make you look good? What things do you lay out for them that make the distinction along with the conversation, which is I care about you and you're the most important part of the equation?
Sure. Well, I mean, in this case, I am not the slam dunk. I'm one of 3 agents being interviewed. And so it's the pre-listing interview. Hey, you want to sell. Why are you selling? When do you need to be there? What's important about that stuff? Getting to know what it is that what their needs are and what the importance is. And literally, she wants to have it sold in June. And so now I've got the listing next door that's been on the market for 270 days. And they haven't changed the price, but they've given a new incentive to a buyer's agent as though they're going to buy the attention of somebody. Do you want somebody that you're going to be working with, or do you want somebody that's trying to buy a buyer for you?
Russ can't stand it. Russ can't stand it.
Could somebody please write this down? Please help me out with this and we'll build this. Imagine for a moment, Tom, you had the 5 ways agents fail sellers. And the moment you booked an appointment, you had these drip out one at a time, maybe through multiple channels, and you only drip out 4. So the 5th one you get to talk about. There's so many things, Don, and thinking like you again, that from the moment we set the appointment to the appointment, that we have a strategy for setting this up.
Yeah. And how we get the appointment is also a strategy, but that's from the time you get it. Yes. And I actually have a pre-listing package that I'd love to share with the group at some point. Russell, let's put that in here somewhere as an add-on or an extra or something. Okay.
You got it. Client, you had something.
Yeah, I was talking to a financial planner a few days ago, and um, just like we're making this change from, I don't want to say we're not salespeople anymore, but focusing on different things. He said something interesting. He said his company no longer focuses on sales. They just don't. The algorithm is so good that they now allow it to do the actual trading and all that other stuff. All they do now is just, how can I help you? How can I best serve you? Can I best serve you? Am I the one for you? And they have seen their sales go through the roof. So the question is, how do we sell without looking like we're selling? That's essentially the question. How do we sell keeping the other person's best interest in
I'm gonna
mind?
drop this in for Don because I called him today on it, and he actually knows the original source because Amanda in here quotes Steve Jobs, yet Don tracked it to the original source and already had it in his presentation, one of his slide decks. Marketing is the art of rendering the sales process obsolete.
Boom.
If
So
your
even the
marketing was good
questions.
enough, all you would get was come list me calls.
One more time. Marketing
I'm
is.
joking on that. Hey, why don't you just read page 58, Amanda's section? It's right there in that paragraph. You can highlight and copy it because I
Second
want
paragraph.
to drive folks who may not be reading everything to read it over and over with this content that we're going through. So you can keep internalizing. Don, what do you have to add to that?
Well, I mean, and again, this is old stuff. Yes, and I still can't think of his name. I had it a little while ago and told Joyce and Maria, but this goes back to the 80s. Oh, Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker just said the purpose of marketing is to, make the selling process obsolete. It becomes that you don't have to sell if you've marketed. We walk in predisposed. They're ready to buy from us because we've made ourselves so obvious. How did we do that? By marketing. And today, marketing looks like video. Marketing looks like so many things that give you such credibility that when there's no decision to be made, you're the decision, and I already made it. And that's where people really need to understand is this: the strategies that come early set up the later. It doesn't really matter what you say. And yes, client, I agree with you. Questions, be consultative. Absolutely. So if you ever get to someplace, yes, be consultative. But why don't we just eliminate the competition so we're the only one that shows up? Therein lies the big challenge for all of us, right? How do we get to that place? So again, we're going to let this unfold, but we're clearly looking at the roles of marketing through the filter of how does it aid the tactics called sales.
All right, everybody. What else did you pull here out of Death of a Salesman, Birth
Can
of
you
a
hear me, Coach?
Yes, I can. Caesar, what do you got, brother?
Well, I loved the way that they broke it down and in how you should market as well, pegging what Don said with the global pain, marketing to the CEOs, where only when he or she made the example of raise your hand if you're interested in painting or whatever, is only about 3% of the crowd. So there's you need to grab a bigger audience by the global pain than target pain, and it was like a funnel process, just like our contacts and the way that we do it. So I thought that was amazing. And then to add one little nugget to what Don was saying about marketing, from my understanding, is Edward Bernays is like the father of marketing, where he even created markets of diamonds by putting them in movies, or cigarettes, having females smoke in movies, and that's how this whole market has been created. So just a little nugget up there, but I love the global pain to the target pain, that funnel process.
It's great.
Awesome. Superb. Wonderful. Great. And Ryan, I saw your mic was open for a sec. Did you want to chat? Kick it back on. Let's go, brother.
So one of the things that I see is if you were a listing or a buying agent right now, that is one way to look at this concept of the stadium pitch. is very interesting to me because I'm looking at it from a team leader aspect. So many times in my former brokerage, I'd take a class, whether it's like career visioning or something like that, that I would take several times and see it from different perspectives. I'm seeing this from a different perspective as a team leader now, as um, marketing towards the agent, marketing towards, creating that rapport with them and asking them what they need, as opposed to, what I'm getting back. A lot of feedback from agents right now is, what are your splits? And what that's telling me is they're not hearing value from anyone else. They're not getting the value proposition at all. They're just saying, in the absence of value, it always comes back to splits.
Always.
Absence of value, it always comes back to money. So what are you doing to be able to create a rich environment that sets you apart? And that's where I think the marketing definitely can help you instead of hinder you in those regards, because there's just not enough value being put out there of what separates people in that team growth aspect or growth aspect to EXP. A few years ago, there was so many EXP agents that were just spewing EXP all over everybody. They didn't have any value besides just come and get some stock. They didn't even know how to articulate the value of what is happening. And that's what I'm synthesizing from this the stadium pitch is, be able to articulate your value and what your proposition is to set yourself apart, and then use your marketing to benefit you and continue to bring out your strengths of what you do.
Yeah, and the fun part for us again that are on the EXP platform, it's the value of what we are creating. It's not the company. It's what we're creating. And that's where she's going and he's going with this material, is each one of these individual companies, even if they're operating as a one-man shop, a one-man army, is building their brand and building their strategy to get them where they want to go. And so that's what I want for all of you guys. Yes, you're operating inside maybe another company, another brand, or Don or my organization here. And yet we want to help you build yours. So really be thinking in that mindset of, this is my company. I mean, Ryan's already there. I'm a team leader now. I'm building my operation. By the way, the more people you have, the more strategy is going to be required and the more things you're going to have in place and serve. That's why Don and I talk twice a week now on, okay, what else can we do to help everybody? This morning, we were talking about some new changes to help everybody. And it's constantly evolving. That's the other piece on this I want to make sure you guys get. It's never going to be set in stone. All of these things are evolving based on the growth of you and your operation. And all of these are evolving based on what is happening in the market and the marketplace. Who else is ready to go? I hear a mic hot.
I have something here on page 65. I don't know if we are that ahead, but it caught my attention when they formulate the questions, talking to the buyers, to the audience, and the one that says the 5 ways you're wasting money in your operation and administration. So these remind me of the rent versus buy. This is something that we can use to say, okay, let me show you why you're wasting money right now, how you're wasting money right now, renting. So yeah, it caught my attention because sometimes we're trying to sell like the first one. I'm here to tell you why we have the best office, the best that really wouldn't work. But this other one does work a lot better because you are digging into the pain of, okay, showing them how they're losing money, and that's painful for the buyer.
Absolutely. And
so-
the other key piece of this, Alessandra, is it's about them.
Right.
When we're selling, we're usually talking about us. All of these things are about them.
Yes. yes.
Camacho, your mic's on and your window's down, so let's hear from you.
Yeah, so touching on what Ryan was saying, one of the things that I think is really overlooked about our company, we just finished 26 rallies across the company. These were not corporate events. Our corporation, the corporate entity puts on one event a year, and everything that is done is by agents, which means the agents see so much value in what we're doing and collaborating that they're taking their time and putting amazing events that are as big or bigger than a lot of the corporate franchise companies. And that's really huge, because there's masterminds all over the place that are popping up of groups of agents coming together for the sole purpose of collaborating and getting better and teaching and what's going on in the market. And when you've got a group of agents all over the country willing to put on huge events and doing it really on their own dime, on their own time, I think that is really huge and says a lot about the culture of sharing and giving. And I think that's just something that's not often stated enough.
Well, and from a strategy perspective, which is what we're talking about here, it's a corporate strategy to have the quote staff, because in a real estate brokerage model, the agents really are they're independent, independent contractors. They're employees of the brokerage in almost every case. They're employees. They're just independent contractor employees. And the model being the employees are empowered to make the changes and make the things happen for the company. The employees are empowered to actually put on events. What a great strategy that's been put in place. Imagine for a moment, let's just take Toyota. If they actually empowered their sales teams on the ground, rather than being top down, this is what you have to do, empower them to create something. What an incredible strategy that might be to transform the automotive industry. I'm hearing another voice.
Nafrita, your mic's open. I don't know if you're intending to come in.
So I am. I'm a little hoarse, guys, so excuse my voice, but a few things that I jot down from my notes, and then Tom kind of raised some ideas that I was talking to my team about yesterday that I want to mention. But kind of going back what you guys were saying about the stadium pitch, I wrote down, be a market expert, not a service or product expert, right? Because it took me back to when he started talking about the shoes. He gave the information that 214,000 nerve endings is in your feet that connect to every organ in the body. And I was like, wow, I never even thought about it like that. And then he talked about that your feet sweats about 1 cup of moisture a day. And just listening to that as I was listening to the book, I was like, wow, that made me, look at your face. That made me think like, I'm going to definitely pick my shoes differently the next time I go shopping just by knowing this. And I had to go back and play it again. 214,000 nerve endings in your feet that connect to your whole body. That's a lot, right? That's a lot of connections. That means your feet impacts your whole everything. And I remember being in the military, wearing those boots, and I had to try so much things because the arch of my feet wasn't perfect or whatever. So I'm trying to insert and trying to get it right. But if your feet is not good, you can't function. Like, you can't think, you can't do anything. So I took that and I was like, wow, how impactful is that to know that he gave some market information and he wasn't even selling a shoe, but that make you think now how I guess different will the quality of the shoe that he's selling will be compared to the competitor, right? And then that brought me back to what Tom was saying about him going on the showing appointment. And how do you highlight those things, your services, and how do you create that unique proposition for your buyer or your seller in this case to buy into you. And if you just give a lot of data, a lot of information, then it sets you up as being an expert. And then one of the things I thought we talked about yesterday in paragraph 18, line 505, I don't know if you guys ever use this, but we always look at the contract, right? And you read through it. And if sometimes you may have a client that says, well, can you break this down? And you always want to say, well, I'm not an attorney, but let's kind of go and review these things. But if you look in line 505, it says a tax proration based on an estimate shall, at either party's request, be readjusted upon receipt of current year's tax bill. So we had a conversation about that. So it basically says that after you close, a buyer can come back to the seller and say, hey, now that my taxes have adjusted, I want to request that you pay me XYZ. And we talked about it because one of my team members, he was working and he submitted an offer and the agent accepted it, but she crossed that line out. And I was like, wow. So we dove into it. And it's like we read it all the time, we overlook it all the time. But how about you asking the seller, hey, are you aware there are certain things in the contract, like this specific clause? Like, I'm not sure if any of the other agents mentioned it, but I will make sure that I look at every detail and highlight these things and eliminate these things.
Yep. So let's take this to a
Sorry.
strategy because we're up at the 9:30, and I want to give you guys some homework because again, here is a piece that we could create on the top 5 things in our contract that people overlook. And you can have a story on that. We could do a whole video on the top 5 places sellers lose money. There's all these things that we can do on this right now for video content. So I want to give you guys homework on this section of some stadium pitch titles that we can now turn into work. So I want you guys coming back with stadium pitch titles tomorrow, which means today, right now, what could we and what are we going to do, Don Hobbs?
Do a video and talk about something that you took away from this call today, something that you learned here, something that hit you in the book, something that made sense to you, something that's going to change the way that you approach things, a strategy, etc. Put it into a video, shoot a video, get off the phone and shoot a video.